guilty of criminal activity. I don't think that the main relationship between politicians and the press can ever end, because both of them subscribe to a myth, which, by the way, I don't subscribe to. I don't think that newspapers actually change the opinions of large sections of the population and therefore cause elections to be won or lost. I think it's a myth that all of us believe in, politicians more than anyone else, newspaper barons more than anyone else, but I don't think it's actually provable, and I don't think it's true. I can give you several instances from British politics when very powerful newspapers have backed a politician who has lost badly because the public saw through it.
In a way, it's like Radia Gate in India, where now everybody is questioning the relationship also between editors and politicians.
But it's inevitable that editors and journalists will have close relationships with politicians, and so they should, because it's our job as journalists to go and get the information. If you're a crime reporter, you get close to the police. If you're a motor industry reporter, you go and get close to the motor industry manufacturers. I mean, this is a non-issue. The point here is not the fact that the politicians were close to the journalists. It's not the fact that Murdoch's people may have been briefed. It's the fact that it moved over into the business sphere. That the thing that the fuss is about is not about the journalism, although the hacking itself was bad enough. The actual problem is the influence that Murdoch and his people had on Downing Street. It happens to have been about hacking, and the hacking is the criminal thing. But the main thing from the press point of view, apart from the hacking, is the fact that Murdoch had this impact, this influence on the Prime Minister of Britain. He rushes to the PMO whenever he comes here. He rushes to any other country. Anywhere else he goes, this guy is feted. Made a fuss of as a great press baron, and that's what's wrong. It's that influence that half of this is about. The other half is about the hacking. And of course the British thing is nothing to do with any of this. The British thing is because people think that they might have Cameron on the run, and that's what all this fuss is about today.
All right, I now want to shift attention to the question that's bothering all our viewers, I'm sure. Is the Murdoch scandal a wake-up for Indian media? How much of this nonsense takes place in the Indian media as well? Are we being very facile when we look at what's happening in Britain, ignoring completely the problems that plague Indian media? Nalini Singh, we'll start with you.
I absolutely think that just now the Indian media, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity for catharsis, for mid-course correction, or for the last course correction in the Indian media. First of all, I think that there is this question of who is responsible for content. And let me just say, it is the promoter. You know, this defensive veil that they had about Rupert Murdoch and James Murdoch about negligence and ignorance, that's baloney. That's not acceptable. So the promoter of the channel, and these are figures that you don't see on your channels very often. Maybe sometimes we see on yours, but these are not people who are seen. So
but is that not a fair, just to play the devil's advocate, is it not a fair point for the promoter or the chairman to make, that I didn't follow on a minute by minute, day by day, month by month basis what my journalists were doing or what my editors were doing?
Rahul, this is what, you say that you delegate. After all, journalists would hate to have this thing around their necks, the noose around their necks. But the situation is that who indemnifies that, that channel? It is the poor victim of the channel. So you have this Dowler, Emily Dowler, that little girl who died. So actually she is saying to the News of the World that it's all right, please carry on. It's not that. The promoter will have to be, I don't want to, this is new in India and I don't want to emphasize this too much, but there is Kalanidhi Maran, etc. So every promoters will have to be responsible. But I think the second thing that we are looking at is that, when I was talking earlier, that when you know that the right to privacy is not an absolute right, at least in our country, is it okay to use illegal tactics to get your news? And I don't know whether there's phone hacking here. I'm actually not aware of